Tottenham Hotspur have sacked Ange Postecoglou, and we'll read a statement from the club now. We are extremely grateful to Ange for his commitment and contribution during his 2 years at the club. Ange will always be remembered as only the third manager in our history to deliver a European trophy. Thank you, Ange. Ian, we just heard you talking passionately about Ange. It was a long wait, the joke of Spurs never lifting a trophy. Yep. He's the man to lead them to it. A few weeks later, he's out of the job.
It's madness, isn't it? Season 3 is always better than Season 2, just absolutely stamped all over him. I mean, it's ridiculous to see what's happening. There's no loyalty in the footballing world. However, Chris Whittingham was right there. All trophies are not made equal now. And all of a sudden, we're starting to recognise that the Premier League is becoming so important to all of these giant football clubs, and the performance is becoming more important than sometimes even lifting a trophy. For the first time in 17 years, you get your hands on a trophy, and then, 13 days after that comment he made about Season 3 being better than Season 2, you're out the door? To me, it's just absolute madness. But at the end of the day, Tottenham were poor this year. They were awful to watch. Their performances didn't lie. I thought they were obviously hampered by a ton of injuries, Liam. That didn't help them whatsoever. But how many times have we sat there just listening to Ange Postecoglou battle with a reporter, trying to prove that he should be given time and also trying to calm people down? He got his hand on the trophy, but at the end of the day, performances apparently really do matter. It's not just about getting your hands on trophies. It's now down to performances as well.
And this seems to be a decision that has really split Spurs fans. You're either pro Ange or you're against Ange. You mentioned they're the worst Premier League position that they finished in a season. Yep. But lifting a trophy, you'd think it would, given the fact they're in the Champions League, which will mean so much to the club, that he deserves another year.
For me personally, yes. I think obviously winning that European trophy for the first time in such a long period of time, forget the fact that it was 17 years since any trophy arrived at the football club, that's one thing. The fact that he gave a memory to your supporters, the fact that he gave something for Daniel Levy and his executive board to be able to build around, you're back in the Champions League. In my personal opinion, the human aspect of it, because I absolutely hate that there's no loyalty in football anymore. I hate the fact that he's gone. I think he should have been given enough time to try and prove people wrong next season. Give him an opportunity. Remember how it started? How good were Spurs? When he started, they were fabulous to watch, sitting top of the Premier League, looking brilliant, and then all of a sudden, injuries started to happen. Performances got suffered because of that, and actually last season was the worst that I've ever seen Tottenham in the Premier League. 22 defeats on the season, and I think the only 3 teams that had a worse goal difference was the 3 teams that got relegated. So yeah, the statistics simply don't lie. But getting your hand on a trophy should mean something. Unfortunately, nowadays, for us in our footballing world, it really doesn't. I actually tried to, Liam, try to figure out what's going through Daniel Levy's mind now. And I can understand in a small way, yes, okay, they're in the Champions League now. And yes, okay, they've got something to really build upon because they've got their hands on a trophy. If they do manage to bring in a coach that can have an immediate impact, an immediate bounce, I mean, Spurs now, that pressure's off them. Maybe it's the next trophy they're on to. Maybe it's a better performance in the Premier League, and who knows what can happen. Certainly, Ange Postecoglou deserves a ton of respect for what he's done, left in a massive memory in the Spurs fans' mind.
And when you look at the managers who have come in, the ilk of manager, the calibre of manager who have come in and not lifted a trophy, it's a big call. And we're going to hear now from James Benge, who's got the lowdown on this big news coming out of North London.
I guess we'll never know if the Ange Postecoglou drama would have been better in Season 3 than Season 2. Tottenham have sacked their Europa League winning manager, concluding that the 22 defeats they suffered in the Premier League season were ultimately too much to persevere with. Postecoglou goes, an extremely popular figure in the fan base and among the playing staff, and that puts the pressure on Daniel Levy to get this replacement right. And as of around 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday, the leading contender for that vacancy is Thomas Frank of Brentford. He has performed remarkably at Brentford, first to get them to the Premier League and then to establish them as a Premier League force. He's admired for the charisma he brings to the job, as well as the attacking football that he has proven able to play in the Championship. Maybe in the Premier League a little bit more versatility and a little bit more defensive nous, and that's crucial for a Tottenham side that conceded far too many goals last season. Marco Silva of Fulham, he has his admirers as well, but has said publicly that he wants to stay in West London. Andoni Iraola, there were links to him earlier this year, but those appear to have cooled, and Bournemouth would like to keep him to a new contract. So right now it's Frank that is leading the way in terms of contenders. certainly a very impactful manager, but one without Champions League football on his CV, without a lot of experience. He'll have the chance to manage in the Champions League if he gets that. And Postecoglou will leave maybe believing he's done a good job and set the stage in the right position for the next man in charge.
Good to hear from James, though. Me and Adam were joking. He's still sat in his sauna in his house. He needs to get that sorted. But we were speaking to some Spurs fans here, actually, before, and they're in the Champions League. Thomas Frank is the front runner, but does he have enough experience to make that jump to make Spurs competitive in the Champions League and be closer to the top 5, 6 in the Premier League that Spurs fans will want?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's an important question that needs to be asked, but we won't actually find out the answer until he takes over this job and how big a job Tottenham Hotspur really is. I mean, if you were to compare the clubs, obviously what he's done at Brentford has been fantastic. He's done an unbelievable job. They are cemented in the Premier League, financially well-run club. What they do is bring in tremendous talent and sell them on for tons of money, and he manages to deal with all different kinds of personalities, international players obviously that are coming through the door, speaking multiple languages. Obviously he's one himself. I watched a recent interview with him, which was an extended interview where he was walking around the training ground explaining, you know, how much the club has changed and his time at the football club, but the way it's developed. And of course, he's been able to be a part of that building process. Unfortunately for him, if he goes through the door at Spurs, he doesn't have that time, Liam. He's got to get results immediately. I mean, look at Ange Postecoglou. You're a couple of years to the day from being hired and fired. There's no time. You've got to have immediate success. Spurs have spent a record amount of money. They have actually gone through a period of time where they've actually lost money in their financials recently. And even though it's a tremendously run financial business, it's an excellent business, I still think it's now down to their Premier League success. Having success in the Premier League going forward closer to those Champions League spots, trying to continue to put themselves into a dangerous position where they can maybe get to the knockout stages of the Champions League. It's going to be a really interesting year for whoever takes over Tottenham Hotspur. But I do have to admit, I am a huge fan of Frank. I think he has a real pleasing on the eye style of football, the way he approaches games.
Well, Ian, you'll know, having played under managers, there's some who you support, there's some who you get behind, and there's some who you can't wait to see out the door.
Yeah.
It feels this year that under all the media pressure that Ange has been under, the group of players have stuck with him. What do you think his legacy be? How do you think this Ange Postecoglou will be remembered by a Spurs fan and his team?
See, you're asking a lover of Scottish football about Ange Postecoglou and what he did for Scottish football, and Glasgow Celtic in particular. It was fabulous to see. He brought a lot of eyeballs on the Scottish Premiership, and he did have a tremendous amount of success. He always claimed he was going to win a trophy in his second year if he didn't win it in his first year, and he did exactly that. So the legacy that's been left behind, and I'm sure you're reading out a lot of social media posts out there that Ange Postecoglou was a legend to a lot of these Spurs fans now for what he did. He created a memory, a winning memory. After such a long period of time, he'll go down in history at that football club. And what you mentioned, third manager now to win a European trophy, it's spectacular.
We see this here from Dom Solanke. Thank you for bringing me to this wonderful club. Thank you for bringing us a wonderful trophy. Won't ever forget the convo we had. All the best in your next adventure.
You know Dom pretty well as well.
From the same place, but it's a big move for him. He's gone there. It probably hasn't gone quite how he wanted, but he had that big moment lifting a trophy.
Yeah.
And then we see here another one from Pedro Porro. Thank you for everything, boss, for mentoring me early on, helping me settle into the club and trusting me out on the pitch. I'll always be grateful for the way you led us and defended us. I think the word defending there is really key because he did always seem to have his team's back.
You know, I know you obviously friends with Dom Solanke there, and obviously living around British football in particular, obviously the Premier League, and how closely you've worked around the Premier League. You must be surprised as well at a decision like that, because you can see how much he is loved by the players. And you know, being a former player, when you have that manager, even though sometimes success is not there because of injury or for whatever reason, you still have a connection with the manager. So it's really tough to see them go. Really tough, especially when he's the one who's brought you in. He's the one who's built you and sold you the dream of the club, where he sees your career going, where the club can go. And for me, I think trophies normally do the talking, so I think he's unlucky, but he won't have done himself. He'll have done himself a whole heap of favours. You imagine walking out of the door of Tottenham Hotspur, where you've just won a trophy for 17 years. The club has not had a trophy, and he's the one who walks out the door. I mean, I am actually pleased and proud of the way he's handled this situation, Ange Postecoglou, because it is not easy. The media were all over him, and obviously the rumours were certainly there immediately after winning this trophy. He had built up, obviously, all of us thinking that he was going into next season saying that season 3 is going to be bigger and better than season 2. So even at that period of time, he believed he was going to be Tottenham manager next year. and Tottenham still might have a very good season ahead. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm disappointed for Ange Postecoglou, but what I'm feeling from Spurs fans out there, that this is the right move.
Do you think the time that a new manager has got now to develop this team, given Ange's playing style was so unique, it's asking a lot in a short space of time, do you not think?
It is, but a lot of players have come back from injury at the right time. I mean, let's just say this. When you have the Europa League Final and you win a final, of course, it's a great thing. They didn't play well in that final, and they were poor in the Premier League, especially losing the last 5 games. They were minging in the Premier League. So it's got to be better than it was last season. They're just lucky that there was 3 teams worse than them in the Prem this year.